everyone, welcome to Kelly's Roadhouse, the podcast where we are going to recap every single Sweet Valley High book in the series. My name is Paula and I'm here with Richard.
Hello.
Hi, so today we're going to recap book number 3, Playing with Fire.
Mm-hmm.
Can Jessica play Bruce Patman's game and win, is the question for this book.
Do
you think she can?
Well, we're going to find out. But I will say, off the top, this was my favourite book so far of the 3 we've read.
It's a low bar, to be fair.
It's a low bar, but this was definitely my favourite of the 3. There's a lot going on. Did we want to do a bit of a trigger warning? Because, there are some things in this book.
Yeah, there's a lot about weight.
There is.
And also kind of emotional abuse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And obviously we're going to be talking about that, and just know that we're making fun of the book if we're making fun of it.
Yeah.
We're not, obviously. But yeah, this one though really was the most entertaining so far. So
they just get better. I'll tell you that now.
Looking forward to talking through it.
So the cover, I've got it in front of me. It is pastel pink,
mm-hmm.
and it's got a picture on the front of Jessica and Bruce. Bruce looks exactly how I would imagine him to look.
Yes, I agree.
He's done that thing that rich people do when they tie their jumper over their shoulders.
Yes.
I mean, I've only ever seen rich people do that on TV.
Yeah, I've never seen it anywhere else.
Yeah. And he's standing behind Jessica and he's got his arm around her, but to me it looks like he's got her in a headlock or something. He's like strangling her.
It's an aggressive,
very possessive look.
Possessive pose, and I think that's very intentional.
Yeah, exactly,
yeah.
Definitely.
So, shall we go through the book?
Yeah, so it opens up with Todd and Elizabeth. They're in the gym for the Sweet Valley High dance contest.
Yes, shock of shocks. Book 3, and we open on our 3rd dance.
So you're still counting the dances?
I'm still counting the dances, yeah, I'm counting the dances. Now, obviously, this is the Sweet Valley High 5th annual rock and dance party contest, which, of course, because Jess being queen in Secrets, at the end of Secrets, she became queen of the dance, and Winston becoming king, they are now having to start this dance.
Yeah, so they have certain social obligations they have to fill as king and queen, don't they?
Yes,
because that's why she was so angry about it.
Yeah.
She's stuck with him for the year. So Todd and Liz spot Jessica entering late with Winston trailing behind her.
Mm-hmm.
And Jessica is in a bright blue skin-hugging mini dress and matching tights.
She is indeed.
She was an eye-catching sight. I bet she was. The outfit accentuated her long, shapely legs and brought out the blue in her sparkling eyes. And then we get the description of Elizabeth.
Which is amazing. So she's stylish, apparently stylish, according to the book.
Apparently,
according to the book.
I would disagree. But...
So stylish, but more casual, with wheat-coloured pants and a tanned striped shirt.
That sounds absolutely disgusting.
It sounds hideous. And it's not the only hideous outfit in this book. There's one that Jessica decides to wear later, but we'll get to that.
Okay. And then, of course, it says they're both blessed with the same all-American good looks.
Of course, yes, which they make a point of saying in every book. Paula, have any band in the world, which band are playing this dance?
Oh, Spice Girls?
No, it's
Rolling
not the Spice
Stones?
Girls. It's not the Rolling Stones. However, they might be Sweet Valley High's answer to the Rolling Stones.
Ah, the Droids.
The Droids, yes.
Yeah.
For the 3rd dance in a row, the Droids are playing the dance.
Of course they're playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in the middle of their latest tune, I Found Paradise.
Yeah. And Liz notices a tall man in his 20s watching the droids as they play. He's very into them. And Liz questions who he is. She says she's never seen him before.
So he's got my favourite outfit.
Oh, go on.
He's dressed in red leather pants
Yes.
with matching skinny tie knotted loosely over a white shirt.
He sounds like the coolest guy.
In my notes from here on, he's referred to as Red Leather Pants Guy.
Fair enough.
That's
his
name now.
That works for
me. He has
me.
got a name. He's called Tony, but I prefer Red Leather Pants Guy.
Red Leather Pants Guy, it is.
I've never seen anyone wearing red leather pants. I don't think.
No, but you would notice him.
Yeah.
At the event. So yeah, she notices. Todd wonders if it's Miss Dalton's new boyfriend.
Of course.
Which I wondered, what happened to Mr. Collins? I thought her and Mr. Collins were going to get together at the end of Secrets.
Miss Dalton gets around,
I guess so.
She's a young teacher. They all do.
She's ancient according to Lila, but yes. So
Todd is sure that Liz will use her reporter's instincts to find out who the guy is by the end of the night.
Yeah, she's a reporter. She's going to use her reporting skills.
Did you know she's a reporter?
They do make a point of telling us time and time again in these books that she's a reporter. And everyone that speaks to Liz has to bring up the reporter thing. They get it in there somehow, every time. So Liz and Todd catch up with Jess and Winston. And Winston talks about... winning the contest and going on to the Dance Fever competition, which is the next dance in Sweet Valley. But Jess is preoccupied.
Yeah, she's more worried about trying to find Bruce to wish him good luck.
Yes.
And Elizabeth is annoyed that she's going on about Bruce in front of Winston.
Yes.
She thinks it's inconsiderate.
Well, it would be inconsiderate, except this is all Liz's fault.
Yeah.
This whole thing with Winston at the end of Secrets, if you haven't listened to that podcast, go back and listen to the Secrets podcast. It says in that book, she basically set up this whole thing so that Winston became king just to get
Jessica off.
At Jessica.
Yeah.
But now Liz in this book is like, oh, Jess, you're being so horrible.
As like a pawn in her revenge.
Yeah. But now she's like making
out like...
And
now she feels sorry for him.
Yeah. Now she feels sorry for him and she's making out like Jess is being horrible to him. But it's like, you own some of this. This is kind of your fault too. But,
And then we get introduced to a new character who's going to become a very big character. Well, that was unintentional.
Came out wrong. That was unintentional.
Robin Wilson.
Robin Wilson.
So she enters and she starts gushing to Jess about her dress.
She does.
She says she wants one exactly the same.
She, she's very over the top and...
she's bubbly.
She's bubbly. I felt sorry for her as it went on because people treat her horribly. But I must admit, she did annoy me at this point because she's like, "Oh, Jessica, what an incredible dress! Where did you get it? I must get one like it." And there's nothing worse than when you've got a new outfit and you go out and someone comes up to you like, "Where did you get that? I want to buy it." It's like, but it's my outfit. Like that's mine.
I just say I can't
just
remember.
Lie.
Or eBay.
Yeah.
Can't remember.
eBay's a good answer, but you couldn't really say that in the mid-90s or 80s. Sorry, 80s. Foxy Mamas. That's where we got it.
So the thing with Robin, so it describes Robin as a recent addition to Sweet Valley High, who had quickly attached herself to Jessica, and then it says Jessica gives the overweight girl one of her fake smiles. So the thing about Robin, they cannot mention Robin in this book without mentioning her weight.
No,
there is a reason for that because the next book is a storyline about Robin's weight, basically. But we're gonna count how many times they mention Robin's weight in this book.
Well, they're about to mention it again.
That's been once.
So yes, she fake smile to the overweight girl. We then get that Jessica thinks that the last thing she wants is to be seen in the same outfit as Miss Tubby.
So that's twice in less than a minute.
in less than a minute. Jess, obviously is Jess is Jess, right? So I expect this from Jess. What shocks me is everyone else in this book.
Everybody, yeah.
Like, because I was like, when I started reading it...
I've never seen an overweight person before.
Yeah, and when I started reading it, I was like, okay, this is the point of the book. This is fine. Like, it's fine that she's thinking her in this way because she'll get her comeuppance and it'll be part of the story. No. Like, everyone is like this to her.
You wait until the next book.
Yeah, we'll get there. So yeah, she's new to Sweet Valley and she's quickly attached herself to Jessica and is kind of following Jessica around. Jessica doesn't really want her around.
So Jessica excuses herself and she says that she'll see Liz and Todd at Ken's party.
Yes.
And Robin asks what party and runs after Jess as fast as her plump legs will carry her.
That's 3.
That's 3, yeah.
They're asking what party they're going to, but Jess pretty much ignores her. And yeah, that's that. Off she goes.
So Winston and Jessica have to go and kick off the dance contest.
Yes.
And it says, Jessica's lustrous golden hair is swaying to the beat, completing the perfect picture of a dancer in ecstasy. However, Winston was a clumsy dancer, trying to hide his ineptness by acting like a clown. Jess is furious as he runs in circles around her, comically kicking his feet and clapping his hands.
Clapping his hands, yeah.
He sounds like an Oompa dancer to me or something.
Yes, yeah.
Clapping his hands and kicking his feet.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he accidentally steps on her foot and she asks him if he's trying to put her in hospital.
It's a bit of an exaggeration, isn't it?
Yeah, but someone has been watching and comes to Jessica's rescue.
Yeah, so she's desperately looking out in the audience for, like, help. She's like, oh, just someone save me. And she catches the eye of Bruce.
So Bruce turns up and pulls Jess away and starts dancing with her.
Yeah, he says, he basically comes up and he says, look, this is how it's done, Winston. Starts dancing with her. Bruce, the book says, Bruce gets no argument from Winston, who knew he was upstaged. Poor Winston.
I know who I'd rather dance with, to be honest.
Yes, yeah, I agree. Well, certainly after reading this book.
So then it's one of our favourite bits.
Mm-hmm.
It says, during the second and third songs, they shift into more complex moves.
Yeah,
so we were talking the other night about
what is a complex move? What's a more complex dance move? I'm like, do they just start doing like break dancing and like spinning around on their backs and stuff?
I don't know if you've seen this, but I don't know if any of our listeners have seen the TV show.
You should.
In episode 1, series 1. There's sort of a variation on this story where Elizabeth is dancing with Winston.
Yeah.
And they do some complex moves.
They do.
And I just had that in my head. But
yeah.
if you haven't seen it, go to YouTube and look up Sweet Valley High Series 1, Episode 1. It's hilarious.
It is absolutely hilarious.
And then it says, with the strength of his well-muscled body, Bruce lifted Jessica high into the air and spun her around his shoulders and across his body. They were pure... sorry, I'm getting all tongue-tied. They were pure grace, electricity and motion. And then everyone around them just is like, fuck this.
Yeah, they're like, well, we're done. We're not going to win.
Yeah, and just stops dancing and starts watching them instead.
And they continue to dance. They refuse to be separated, as you said, during the second and third dances. And then... during the dance, Bruce tells Jess, warning number 1, that the men take the lead in the dance, and Jessica gets the distinct impression that she's going to have to be less aggressive if she wants to keep Bruce interested.
She tells him she'll follow wherever he leads.
Yes, and she does.
She certainly does. Yeah,
she does that.
She says that with uncharacteristic submissiveness, apparently.
Yeah, we kind of lose Jessica in this book. She kind of disappears for a while because of this whole Bruce thing. But we'll get there. So
then it's another good bit. So it cuts to Winston.
Yes.
How did you pick up on this as well?
I did, yeah.
It says he's over by the refreshment table and he's just downed his 5th glass of cola.
Mm-hmm.
Like wild, crazy kids.
This comes up again later as well.
About the 5th glass of cola?
No, they go to a bar on the outskirts of town and all buy sodas. They're all drinking soda because no one drinks beer.
Just made me laugh. Like it was like downed his 5th glass of cola,
as if it's
like it was
hard
like
stuff.
a shot.
Yeah.
He must be burping all over the place. He's had 5 glasses of Coke. No wonder Jess doesn't want to dance with him.
Yeah, he's probably going to throw up any minute.
Yeah. So at the end of the night, Liz notices the red leather pants guy is talking animatedly to the droids. Their drummer, Emily Mayer, taps Liz on the shoulder and tells her she's got a scoop for the eyes and ears column.
Yes, an exclusive.
The droids have played their last high school dance, and they're going big time.
They are.
Red leather pants guy's gonna manage them and make them stars.
He's a manager, and he's gonna take them to the big time, to LA. They're gonna do the big shows now.
Well, he's a big shot rep for the agency that discovered August Moon and the Savage Six.
Yeah, yes. So that
is a better band name than the Droids.
It's a much better band name than the Droids, indeed. Tony, Red Leather Pants Man, has said to the band he's a manager, he's a big time manager, apparently legit, and he's going to take them to the big time. Liz then finds Todd. Liz and Todd find Winston arguing with Jess. He's upset because she's going to ditch him to go to Ken's party with Bruce.
Now they've done their duties.
Yeah, even though he didn't really get to do his duties.
Yeah, she basically has nothing to do with him now.
Yeah, she's basically like,
so I don't have to be with you anymore. The dance is over.
Yeah.
Fuck
off. She suggests that Winston should go out with Robin and just leaves him to it.
Yeah, because basically she wants to palm them off on each other because Robin's following her and annoying her.
Yeah.
Winston's following her, annoying her. So she's like, maybe I could
just ditch them.
Dump them on each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, she says Liz has a go at her for humiliating Winston again.
Yes.
And she says, where does it say I have to be chained to that clown all night? And then she says, I've been waiting for Bruce since birth, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, she says...
since birth.
Where does it say that I have to hang out with Coco the clown all night? She says that she's been waiting for Bruce since birth, which
since the day she was born.
Since the day she was born, and again, we're forgetting that she was in love with Todd not 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But it does say later that she's always, even Liz knows Jessica's always secretly loved Bruce. So, fair enough.
I doubt she's loved him since she was a day old.
No. But basically, she's been waiting for Bruce since birth so Winston can get fucked. And Jess runs off to be with Bruce. Poor Winston.
Then we get to Ken's party.
Yes.
Jessica's standing with Bruce and some other couples. She's got her arm around his waist and she's staring adoringly into his deep blue eyes.
Yeah.
And Bruce is ignoring her.
Yeah.
And he's bragging to everyone about some bullshit story about how he got out of a speeding ticket.
This is awful, by the way.
Flashing a $20 it would be, wouldn't it?
$20,
flashing a 20 at the cop.
Yeah. He also says that he should have told him who he was, but he didn't. Yeah, he's a real piece of work. I mean, he was awful in the first two books anyway, but he was only in passing, and now we're getting to really know him. He's dreadful.
Yeah.
He's really awful. He's bragging about this. So he was doing 80 miles an hour in a 30 mile an hour zone, which is ridiculous. And he got pulled over and basically flashed some money. And because he's, Mr. Patman.
I mean, apparently, I don't think this happened.
I think it's a made up story, absolutely. But it's, if you're telling that kind of story, you're obviously a certain type of person, because that's a horrible story. You were driving at 80 mile an hour in a 30 zone. That's just horrible, right? That's not something to brag about. That's something to be ashamed of. So obviously Jess is clearly totally in love with Bruce.
Yeah, she's not acting like herself at all.
No, she's adoring Bruce and hanging off of every word.
Usually she's the one being adored and everyone's hanging off of her every word.
Yeah. And given what we learn later, I thought this was really horrible. Her best friend Lila, who previously dated Bruce, is amused at how much Jess is in love with Bruce and thinks to herself, good luck, Jess, you're going to need it. And given what we learn later, I just thought that was really harsh. Lila already knows what Bruce is like. And she's just like, let her go.
Lila and Bruce are a hot couple in Sweet Valley University.
Are they? Wow.
Yeah, they're a really good couple as well.
Bruce reforms.
He does, yeah.
But yeah, so Ken suggests let's spice this party up. We'll all get into our bathing suits and go for a swim in the lake.
They just all happen to have their bathing suits on them at a party.
It was, obviously a prerequisite.
I don't go to a party without mine.
No, of course not. Jess feels cold in the water.
Sorry, go on.
Oh, no, it's okay. Go for it.
I was just going to say, it says she's in a bright red bikini that shows off every curve of her trim body.
Yes.
So I'm just obsessed with their outfits. I always have to let everyone know what they're wearing,
Sorry, I think Jess doesn't feel cold in the water. And she's not sure if it's the temperature of the water or whether it's Bruce's lean, firm frame.
She watches him dive gracefully into the lake.
Yes.
I think he's got the grace of a young lion, like when he climbed the stairs in the last book.
Yes, yeah. And then Jess decides she's gonna dive herself. And she does so. She dives off into the water and starts showing off a bit, which Bruce seems upset about. He doesn't seem too happy with Jess having, the attention on her and showing how good she can be. He then says probably the creepiest line he says in the whole book. He basically says, while she's swimming around, he says, "You can show me your strokes some other time." And then, what does he do then?
So Jessica thinks that she's falling in love.
She does.
They're messing around in the water and kissing.
With everyone else there, to be clear. This is not a private moment.
Yeah. Right? She's too caught up in the rapture of the moment to realise what he's doing until... I can't even bring myself to say it.
So he starts kissing her. And obviously she's enjoying that and gets lost in the moment. And then he decides, in front of everyone, to just start undoing her bikini top.
But she doesn't realise what he's doing until she feels the cool water swirling under her bikini top and hitting her breasts.
Yeah. Now, fortunately for her, she is under the water.
Breasts is the most racy word they say in the whole Sweet Valley series.
That's as far as it ever gets.
Shocking.
But she is underwater, so luckily she's underwater. But she still feels the need to play it off and play like, oh, she's not bothered about it, even though she is. Like, obviously she's like... Yeah,
it says she doesn't want him to think she's a goody-goody. So she sort of makes a joke out of it and reties it.
Yes. And Bruce says, "What's the matter, Jess? Are you scared to play big girl games?
Or are you just a tease?"
Yes, or are you just a tease?
It says he smiles slyly. Who does this remind you of? It really reminded me of Rick Andover in book 1.
It does really remind me of Rick Andover.
I think he called her a tease as well.
Another car owner. Maybe it's car owners. People that own sports cars in Sweet Valley are just awful. Just suggest then that, they take it slower. And Bruce, again... another red flag, becomes really upset and just says, "Oh, you're just playing hard to get," and starts storming off away from her, causing Jess to panic. And then she grabs Bruce and Bruce suggests they go somewhere quiet.
Yeah, he says, just a place to dry off.
Yeah.
So at that point, you'd be like, maybe I shouldn't go somewhere quiet with this guy that's putting pressure on me.
Literally just tried stripping me in front of everyone in this pool, a lake even.
We'll go somewhere quiet away from everyone else.
Yeah. Jess is like completely in love with this guy. And she's making very foolish mistakes already. But yes, so they slip away, but they don't go unnoticed as Liz sees them slip off.
Of course, she's a reporter. She notices everything.
I think she's worried about her sister as well at this point. But yes, she is doing a reporter job, and she sneaks off after them into the woods.
Yeah, she follows them to a secluded part of the lake, where she hears them whispering to each other breathlessly, and the leaf-covered ground crackling under the weight of their bodies. She sort of coughs and they don't notice her, so she ends up having to walk right up to them before they actually notice that she's there.
Yeah.
She tells Jessica she needs a word with her. Then Bruce speaks for Jessica and tells Liz that she's busy. Liz says, "Can't it wait?" and Bruce tells Jess to go. And he says he won't want to hold her unless she wants him to.
Yeah.
So she's left with a choice then. So she's sort of looking at Bruce, looking at Liz, and then she just tells Liz to go away.
Yeah.
And goes back to kissing Bruce.
Yeah, and Liz angrily leaves them to it, lamenting that she would need a crowbar to pry those two away from each other. Bruce kisses Jess, and when he questions what Liz wanted, Jess, knowing full well that it's actually Liz is worried about her, she lies and says that it's about Todd, and that Todd has been cheating on Liz.
Yeah, this was a bit weird because I thought this was going to turn into
it goes nowhere,
sort of a storyline.
It's never brought up again.
Never brought up again. Yeah.
No.
But he doesn't give a shit anyway.
No, I guess that's why it goes nowhere, because like Todd just doesn't care.
Yeah, Bruce doesn't care.
Or sorry, Bruce doesn't care. Todd probably would care.
Yeah.
So later that night,
yeah, he's sorry.
No, go for it. You're still in this moment.
I'm still in this moment. Sorry. So he says to her that he's glad they don't have any problems like that. But he says that if they did have a problem, she'd know it by the empty space next to her.
Yeah.
So this is sort of threatening already to leave her.
Very controlling. They've been going out like 2 hours, and he's like already.
And he's making her feel really insecure. And then he kisses her hard, and his mouth demands what his body wants to take. Yes.
It's all very creepy and very full on and very controlling immediately from Bruce, who didn't make the best impression in the first 2 books, but now is just full on villain.
Yeah.
Later that night, Liz can't sleep. She is fuming.
Yeah, it's 3 a.m. and Jessica still isn't home.
Yeah, Jessica still isn't home. And what's worse, Jess basically forced Liz to lie to Alice, their mother, to cover for her. Which I
imagine is something Liz doesn't do very often.
I wouldn't have thought so, no. Because Jess and Bruce left the party in his Porsche, not to be seen again. But of course, she comes home early in the morning, and Liz sneaks into her room.
Yeah, she tells Liz that she's been with Bruce all night and that it was absolutely wonderful. Liz says she's so worked up by him that she can't think straight, and that she's been following him around like a puppy all night.
Yeah.
She says, I only interrupted you in the woods because I was afraid for you. But Jess says that she can handle him and that they've only been talking all night and that he really likes her and they have loads in common.
Yeah.
They're both a bit of a prick.
She also says, that she doesn't have to answer to Liz, saying, I don't have to give you my itinerary. And Liz just says, she's angry about how Jess treated her in the woods. But Jess does point out that you did interrupt a private moment between me and Bruce, whether you like him or not. And Liz realises that's true and apologises, just saying that she became concerned about her with Bruce. But just, basically says there's nothing to worry about.
Yeah, and she says that if Liz says another bad word about Bruce, she'll regret it for eternity. And then she storms out. Yeah.
Liz does say, just prior to that, to be clear about her feelings, she says that he is arrogant, self-centered, and he will hurt you. Then just says, you've got no evidence, it's just your opinion. And that if she ever says a bad word about Bruce again, she will regret it for all eternity.
The next day, Jess goes down to breakfast and she's really, really chirpy. She plants a kiss on everyone's forehead.
Yes, yeah, which is complete. Well, first of all, the book says that she comes because Liz is there first with Ned and Alice, and we get that point in the storyline about the power plant that goes nowhere. That mention at breakfast, but they do say that that's normal. But then Jess coming down that early is really unusual as well. So she's up super early and she's super chipper, like you said. She's kissing everyone on the forehead.
And she announces to her whole family, as if you do this, she announces to her whole family that she's in love.
And Alice, I love you, Alice. She's like, what, with Winston? You're in love with Winston?
No, she recounts her evening with Bruce to her parents. I bet she doesn't recount all of it.
No, I shouldn't think she recounts all of it.
And Liz thinks that she sounds like she's hypnotised. And she's just had enough and she storms out. She's like, I can't listen to this.
Yes. Yeah. So she... so Alice questions what happened with Winston. And Jess does... she lies and just says that he had his eye on someone else, which further disgusts Liz. But yeah, Liz... so Liz wants to argue, but then... bites her tongue, and Jess announces that she's going sailing with Bruce today on Seca Lake, wherever that is. So then we get to Monday morning. Yeah,
Liz is talking to Emily at school.
Yes.
Who's telling her that the droids are going to top the charts.
Yeah, that everything is coming up, roses for them.
And of course, Liz wants to record their progress with a series of articles for the Oracle.
Yeah, she's gonna record and chart their success and their rise to fame in the school paper.
Yeah, she's going to follow them from their first club gig all the way to their number one record.
She makes out...
calm the fuck down.
Yeah, calm down. And also, she makes out... Because she's like, there's one thing you're missing. And Emily's like, what? And she's like, publicity. I'll give you all this publicity, this exclusive story. I'll chart your... I'll like, record your rise to fame. And it's like...
In the Oracle.
School paper. Like, it's not really publicity, is it?
Jessica, however, she's on the lawn before chemistry class and she's locked in an embrace with Bruce. She tells him she's going to be late and that she doesn't want to get into trouble with Mr. Russo. Mm-hmm. And he says to her, what's more important, chemistry class or our chemistry?
This is fantastic. So yeah, they are basically out kissing on the lawn outside the class because Liz sees her from the class.
Yeah.
She sees her from the class. So they're literally kissing under a tree outside the class. But then when Jess worries about the chemistry class, he says, like you said, he says about the chemistry between them. And Bruce basically says, here's a doctor's note.
Yeah, he pulls out a pad and he writes her a fake note from the school nurse.
Yeah. The problem is, they're kissing right outside the class.
Yeah.
Like, how's that going to work? The teacher can see you from the class. Like, how are you going to have this doctor's note and be like, yeah, I'm sick?
And then he tells her that his diagnosis is mouth-to-mouth resuscitation.
Oh my God, he's got all the lines. You got to give him that.
Yeah, then they just start kissing again.
Yeah, like right outside the window. They just don't care. So yeah, later that day, Liz rushes home from school. She's had inspiration. She's got the best idea ever for a short story. We never learn what it is, however.
She has to write it down ASAP, though.
She does have to write it down ASAP. Let's hope that Robin didn't ruin it.
Yeah, because she loves the special excited feeling that comes over her when inspiration strikes.
Yes. But there is a knock at the door. It's Robin, and she's asking where Jess is. And Liz says, well, she's at cheerleader practice, where she always is this time of day. And Robin says she's not.
No.
She checked.
She says they were supposed to be hanging out, and she's been stood up.
Yeah.
And then it says Liz felt sorry for the pudgy girl.
Yes.
So mentioning her weight again.
Four,
yeah.
Four, yeah.
So yeah, she feels sorry for the pudgy girl, so she invites her in.
Yeah. Robin says that it's fine, and she'd likely forget her too if she was dating Bruce. She then points at her midsection.
Her ample midsection.
5.
Yeah, she says, I'd forget my friends too if I had a guy like Bruce. Although the chances of that are less than 0. And she points to her ample midsection.
Yes.
But she says that Jess has told her that Winston's got a crush on her. And that they were supposed to be doing a makeover to impress him.
They were trying to make me look sexier with science. That's what she says.
She can't believe that a popular guy like Winston is interested in her.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, because Winston, as we know, is not popular.
Is not popular. But I guess, maybe he's like...
she's even lower.
Maybe he's like the top unpopular kid, because he does speak to Elizabeth
Todd.
And Jess and Todd.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe he's like, on the cusp of being popular. So yeah, again, it was one thing when it was Jess, but now it's also Liz, and the way she thinks about Robin, and the fact that Robin puts herself down all the time, and Liz laughs with her and refuses to even like say, "Come on, that's a bit harsh." She doesn't once say that. She just goes along with it, like, "Yeah, you are, like, fine. You have your chances are less than 0."
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, you're not even doesn't even gonna like, you know. Try and be nice to this girl or try and make her feel a bit better about herself.
Yeah, but she does try to let Robin down gently.
She does, yes.
So she warns Robin that Winston's always been interested in Jessica, and she says the last thing that Robin needs is a guy who's on the rebound, but Robin says she doesn't care.
Yeah, Robin says she'd happily be
desperate.
the rebound. And then both her and Liz laugh about it.
Liz invites her to go to the Droids' first club gig on Saturday, and she says it could be a good place to meet some guys.
Yeah, Robin says that she wouldn't want to get between her and Todd, but Liz says, "Well, look, you know, I'm charting their rise to fame.
I'm there for work.
I'm there for work. I'm there doing a job, so you know, you're more than welcome to join us. It's not really a date." So Robin's like, "Yeah, I may well do that."
Then Jess arrives home for dinner, but
Yes.
she says that she's off out again to play tennis with Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
Liz reminds her about the chemistry test they've got the next day,
Yes.
but she says that she doesn't care. So Bruce is starting to affect her studies now as well.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
So they're at the Patman mansion on the Patman's private tennis court overlooking Sweet Valley.
Yes.
Jess tells Bruce that she should really be studying, but she says that she's just going to copy Emily Mayer's answers because she sits next to her and she has large handwriting.
She is, quote, practically an Einstein. So she's just going to copy from Emily. And as we learn later, she's very good at copying because she only copies most of the answers right, so as not to be caught out copying. So she only, you know, she gets enough to pass her tests, but not enough to raise suspicion. But yeah, so she thinks she's got a sure thing with Emily, and that's who she's going to copy off of. But this romantic tennis match takes a turn for the worse, doesn't it?
Yeah, so they start to play, and Jessica's really good.
Yeah.
Apparently she's a really good tennis player, and she's a natural, and she loves it, you know.
And being in love, she wants to show her
Yeah.
boyfriend how good she is at something.
But Bruce is not pleased. In fact, he asks her who she thinks she is.
Yeah, he just flat out says, "Who do you think you are?" Chris Everett Lloyd, who is a female tennis player. Had to Google that.
I was going to say, I don't know who that is.
I didn't know who it was. So Jess sees the glare and anger in Bruce's eyes, and then basically purposely loses. So she doesn't get angry.
She usually hates to lose at tennis, but she just starts to deliberately play shit, basically. Yeah. And then his attitude starts changing when she does that. And she thinks, if it makes him happy to have a girl who wants what he wants, then that's the kind of girl I'll be.
Yeah. So Bruce ends up winning by like some ridiculous margin, and is super happy. And he comes bounding over and kisses Jess. But meanwhile, in Max Dellon's basement, the droids are practicing.
And the pressure of fame is starting to get to them.
It is.
Already.
Poor Emily is really struggling to get the drums right for the latest track. That Guy, I assume Guy wrote the song, is very angry at her. Dana tries to defend her, but Guy says, "Look, you know, Saturday night, this manager, Red Leather Pants Man, has come along. He's booked this gig for us. This is our one chance. This is our big shot. We have to be perfect. We have to be perfect for this."
He even threatens to replace Emily if she can't cut it.
Yeah, until the rest of the band argue back, with Dana and Max, I think, make a big deal, which ends, with Guy basically apologising, but they continue to play late into the day, late into the evening, practicing for Saturday, and when Emily gets home, she falls asleep instead of finishing her chemistry revision.
Yeah, she starts to study, but she falls asleep with the book in her hand. So next day, Jessica's sat on the Sweet Valley High campus with Bruce, and she's crying.
Yeah.
She says, "That idiot Mr. Russo had the nerve to give me an F on the test. What a nerve. Can you believe the nerve of that guy?
Yeah, can you believe the nerve of that man doing his job?
For marking my test correctly.
Yeah. What a piece of shit.
Bruce, as usual, doesn't give a shit about her problems.
No, he literally is just like, what are you worried about? It's just chemistry. Who cares?
He just wants to make out.
Yeah, basically.
But she says, look, if I flunk this, could be off the cheerleading squad.
Yeah, she could fail the entire semester and be off the cheerleading squad.
And then he says, a bunch of silly-looking girls jumping up and down and yelling, you care about the strangest things. What an asshole.
He's so awful.
But Bruce... again, she just pretends she doesn't care about this comment. Even though she does. And she says, I guess the cheerleading has been getting quite boring lately. Yeah,
even though it's one of her biggest passions.
Yeah.
So she's already giving up a lot of she's giving up her schooling, and she's giving up her hobbies now.
Yeah.
And this gets worse and worse through the book, but this is where we're starting to see Jess is becoming a different person. She's stopping doing a lot of the things she loves. Yeah, because cheerleading's
like one of the most important things to her.
Yeah, absolutely. Usually. So Bruce then says, look, if it bothers you that much, I can solve your test problems. And he reveals that he knows where Russo keeps his tests. So she can just cheat on the next test. It's not a problem.
Yeah. This bit was funny because he says he knows where Mr. Russo keeps the test papers.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, Bruce, you'll get them for me?
Yeah, and he's like,
no.
Fuck no, I'm not going to get them. He's like, you can get them yourself. I'm just telling you where they are.
I didn't say I was going to help you.
And then Bruce says he'll tell her where the tests are later, but first they have to take care of business, which is basically kissing.
Yeah, as usual.
Kissing in the grass.
So meanwhile, Liz sees Winston sitting on his own, so she goes to sit with him.
Yes.
He's really miserable, and he tells her he's been thinking he'd be better off if he gave up school, girls, his car, and becomes a monk.
Yeah, just join a monostery.
This is all over Jessica, who he didn't even ever date. Like, just give up everything.
He's just just forget it, Winston says that it's not just that Jess isn't interested that he's upset about. He's actually really worried about Jess being with someone like Bruce, who is clearly just using her. And Liz agrees, saying that she's tried to warn her already. Yeah,
she says that Jessica's turned into a slave and that she's been skipping cheerleading to take his clothes to the dry cleaners.
Yeah.
But she says there's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah, she says that Jess sees Bruce as a god. That she's missing cheerleading practice and all sorts to be with him. But then Liz says, let's forget about Jess. Let's just focus on ourselves and let's have some fun. And she says, look, what are you doing this evening, Winston? And Winston says that he has a date with his Atari, but that's about it. So Liz suggests coming to the Droids gig with her. I wonder where this is going.
Yeah. Then she warns him that Robin is going to be there.
And Winston goes mental.
Yeah, he says, look, she's okay, but we don't have much in common. I get nervous around people who eat all the time.
6.
And then he says...
That's a weird thing to get nervous about. People eating around you.
Yeah. So he says that he'll go, but he's not sticking with her all night.
Yeah.
So he's being a bit shallow and mean here.
He is. He's probably the least of the lot, but even he in this book is... Actually, Todd comes off all right, doesn't he? Todd doesn't get involved. But
yeah, I don't think Todd's in this book much, is he, really?
He's just kind of giving people lifts. Oh, no, he does have that moment, though, later on. We'll get to it.
I can't remember. But...
Well, he's got to buy some time, so he goes to do astronomy.
Oh,
he's
that
like,
bit,
I love astronomy.
That bit,
like,
yeah.
Okay.
Saturday night comes, and Liz is getting ready for the gig.
Yes.
She thinks that she should ask Jess if she can borrow one of her wild and flashy outfits.
Because, and I 100% agree, she thinks to herself, you can't go to a rock club looking like your own grandmother.
Yeah, I thought at least she's self-aware. At least she's aware of what she looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, she can't wear her wheat coloured pants.
No,
you know?
no. Jess then comes in and reveals that she's been shopping in the Boston shop, which apparently is where all the snobs shop. And Jess has previously said she'd never shopped there. Yeah, it's even classier than Foxy
She says
Mama's.
she's found some heavenly dresses, and Liz reminds her that they'd always avoided that shop because they thought it was snobby. But Jess says that was before.
And
what it was before Bruce, basically.
And she's very excited to show Liz the wonderful outfit that she has bought, which is a brown wool blazer and matching skirt.
And 2 Oxford shirts that were tasteful, classic and rich.
That outfit sounds almost as bad as the first outfit to me.
But she says that Bruce likes this kind of stuff. And he's taken her to the country club for dinner.
Yes. So it kind of turns out that Jess has now completely changed her style as well, because Liz asks if she can borrow her miniskirt. There's a miniskirt that Jess always wears that Liz would like to try for the night, and that's quite all right. That she'd like to try for the night, and Jess says you can keep it and have it forever because she's not into that kind of thing anymore, and Bruce hates those new wave clothes. Which I thought actually was quite nice, though. As silly as that line is, I liked it because, as they said in Double Love, the Patmans are all about tradition. They like things to stay traditional. And I thought, oh yeah, like father, like son. So Bruce is like that. He doesn't like the new wave clothes. He likes traditional clothes, which is what he's now got.
Brown wool blazers.
Brown wool blazers. Yes, that's what it's all about now. And Jess says that those clothes look cheap, but they'll look good on Liz.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So Liz arrives at the Seaside Express for the Droids gig.
Yes.
Along with Todd, Robin and Winston.
And Todd says, basically it's a shithole. He basically says, it looks like no one's been here for decades.
Yeah, it's a low wood shingle building that had seen better days. And Todd's like, oh, I don't like the look of this.
No, he even suggests that maybe they go back. But Liz says she has a duty to report on this gig and she must get in there to report on it. And on the way in, Todd admires a motorbike and Liz says she will never understand what you see in those machines. With Todd saying that she'll understand once he gets one and shows her. Which is nice foreshadowing because I know there is a bike episode. You've got the puzzle, the Sweet Valley High puzzle with the bike on the front. So I thought that was nice foreshadowing for Todd eventually getting a bike.
Yeah, I think that's 2 books away.
Okay, cool.
Maybe 3.
Yeah, I like the one thing I'm noticing this series does really well is it kind of sets things up for later and it plant seeds. I really like that kind of universe building it does. It's cool.
Yeah, when they get in there and it's dead, the only person paying any attention to the band is Red Leather Pants guy.
Yes.
But everyone else is huddled in corners talking loudly.
Yeah, the place is half empty.
But the band are great, and Liz drags Todd to the empty dance floor.
Yes.
To support the band and have a dance like you do at your friends' gigs.
Yeah. Unfortunately, leaving Winston and Robin sitting in complete silence next to each other.
Yeah, Winston is just really rude.
Yeah, he basically won't even talk to her. And Robin's upset and disappointed.
Yeah.
Basically, obviously discovering that Winston really has no interest in her.
And she's made an effort as well. She's wearing a peach tunic top that Jessica's picked for her.
Which, by the way, sounds better than what Jess is wearing now.
Yeah, and by the way, it wasn't very flattering to her figure, apparently.
7.
They have to get the weight mention in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he ignores her all night. And then on the drive back, she's feeling upset.
Yeah.
In fact, everyone's feeling disappointed by the night.
Yeah.
And then Liz is staring out of the car window at the sea. And she's thinking, someday she'd like to sit by the sea and write a story.
Yes.
Like, well, fucking go on then.
Go for it, Liz.
Do it. It's not an impossible dream, is it?
No, it's a very achievable dream, that one. But of course, while looking out the window, she notices a very familiar Porsche parked on the side road. And it looks like Bruce and Jessica didn't go to the country club as Jess said they were.
It's 1 Bruce 1.
Yes, the license plate.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I'm still tempted to get that t-shirt.
I
feel like once I've done a few more episodes of the podcast, I'll feel like
Yeah.
I can legitimately wear a One Bruce One t-shirt. Although I'm not sure I want to wear a t-shirt for this guy, but you know.
Yeah, Robin gets really excited, of course. She starts gushing about what a super looking couple Jessica and Bruce are.
Yeah,
how romantic
she's just
it
so
all
over
is.
the top. And she goes on and on and on until Winston grumbles and says that she's said enough.
Yeah, and he asks if he can be dropped off first.
He's been a real dick tonight.
Yeah.
Which is not like Winston, because normally Winston I feel sorry for, and I'm like, oh, I really like Winston. In this book, even he is actually a dick. But yeah, at the end of the night, Todd and Liz talk, and Todd says he feels sorry for the droids. And you know, he feels bad for them, and they obviously thought it was going to be the big time. It's not turned out to be that. And he also mentions that he felt that Winston didn't even give Robin a chance.
And he also mentions that Jessica's been getting a reputation around school.
Yes.
Because Bruce has made it clear to all the guys that he's getting everything he wants from her whenever he wants it.
Yeah.
Liz is fuming, and she says it can't be true. And she calls Bruce an evil wizard.
She calls Bruce an evil wizard. And she also says that Bruce has changed. And I thought, no, he hasn't. He's been a dick from book one. Like, he's not really changed at all. But I guess maybe she's talking about in the past. Maybe he was better before these books. But
yeah, she says she's worried she's lost the real Jessica forever.
Yeah.
I love the name Evil Wizard.
Evil Wizard's
I want to refer
fantastic.
to him as Evil Wizard from now on.
Okay, let's refer to him as Evil Wizard from now on. Yeah, I'm down with that. So yeah, basically she then resolves to show Jess what the Evil Wizard is really like. The next day at school, Liz is working at the Oracle. She remembers Jess saying to her parents that she doesn't play tennis with Bruce anymore. She just watches because she could never beat Bruce. And we also get the wonderful article. Are you going to read the article?
Yeah.
I could see you ready there to read the article.
I've been looking forward to this.
So we get the actual excerpt from the article.
we get our first Eyes and Ears column.
Yeah.
So the Eyes and Ears column, the halls are buzzing with the news of a hot and heavy thing going on between Lila F. Who is Lila F, I wonder?
Yeah.
And a certain blonde football player. Chalk up one more for Lila. 3 cheers for Lois W. John P. showed up at her party. I guess sometimes dreams do come true. See what a talented writer she is.
The attempts at keeping anonymity and just keeping everyone's identities a secret. She's doing so well.
Bill C. has found another surf bunny. Enid R. is packing up her suitcases for another weekend visit with GW. So that's obviously George Warren from the last book.
Again, a nice time.
4th in a row. Cara W. has her eye on a basketball playing senior. Maybe she can get him interested in something besides dribbling. Danger. Tony J. is now on the roads. Pedestrians beware. So that's Liz's famous Eyes and Ears column.
That's how good of a writer she is.
That's pure talent right there.
That's absolute pure talent. But yes, as I said, in between writing, she's worried about Jess, worried that she's now not playing tennis. She's saying she's terrible. She could never beat Bruce at tennis. Bruce is so much better at tennis. And she then goes on and writes a really glowing article about the droids.
Yeah. Oh, is this the article you were on about?
No, I meant the first one.
Oh, yeah.
I did mean the first one.
So, we've got another article. So, her droids article is called Droids Do It Again by Elizabeth Wakefield. The droids' path to rock and roll stardom took them this week to Marshalltown, where they performed at the Rancho East, one of the beach area's leading music spots. I thought it was the Seaside Express.
And a shithole.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she's such a great writer. I'm not surprised she got the
name wrong. Yeah. Or is the Seaside Express some type of place? If you know
maybe.
What I mean?
Yeah, maybe we're confused in our English ways.
Let's just say she's wrong.
I think she's wrong.
We're told the Sweet Valley Band proved once again that they're one of the up and coming groups on the rock scene, earning a standing ovation from the enthusiastic audience.
Yeah, the 2 people that were stood there in the middle of the dance floor.
Droid's drummer Emily Mayer summed up her feelings about the show. It was our best performance yet. Everything seemed to click and the crowd was super. I wanted to play all night. The band has been on the move since last performing in Sweet Valley. Guy Chesney, keyboardist for the group, has been busy writing original songs, 3 of which were introduced at Saturday's concert. We're getting into new areas away from the simple old love songs, he said. Topics like alienation and loneliness. They may sound like downers, but the messages are uplifting. And of course, there's still the famous Droids beat that Sweet Valleyites know us for. Tony Conover, the Droids' new manager, plans to continue showcasing the group at clubs around the state. Next week, the band returns to Sand Pines, where they made their impressive debut 2 weeks ago. So, there have it. That was quite a good article, actually.
That was better than the gossip column, for sure.
But
she's put some effort in.
It's fiction.
Yeah, it's fiction.
So
Guy is very impressed with this. He's like, guys, this is a really good write-up. And Max says, well, it's great, but it's total fiction.
Yeah.
They even say Liz wasn't there for the end, so how can she possibly know what even happened?
But, you know, they're like, hey, well, at least it makes us look good, you know. So
yeah, at least it makes us look good. You know, they have a bit of a disagreement, and Dana lets slip that the manager had contacted her instead of Guy, which angers Guy because Guy thought they'd agreed that the manager would speak to him and no one else. And then they return to practice. He returns angrily to his instrument, and they continue on. Jess walks through the school, super happy in her cheerleader uniform, freshly washed.
Yeah, she's all ready for the big game that night.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce double takes when he sees her outfit, and he asks her what the idea is.
Yeah,
what do you think the idea is? Your girlfriend's a cheerleader.
Yeah,
There's a game tonight.
It's the big game. I assume it's like, you know, one of, you know, the end of year or something, some huge game. And she says, well, you know, he's like, what are you wearing? She's like, my cheerleader outfit. I'm you know, it's the big game. He then says, who said you're going to the football game?
Yeah, he's shocked that she's going to the game.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I assumed you knew I'd be going because I'm on the cheerleading squad.
Yeah. And Bruce basically says that football bores him, and they should go to the beach instead. He
says never to assume anything with him.
Yeah.
And he wants to go for a drive along the beach instead.
Yes.
Which basically means
kissing.
Park the car up and make out.
Yeah. Oh, go on.
He says, if you know what's right for you, you'll find a way to miss this game. Tell me, baby, who would you rather be with? Me or a bunch of chicks with fat thighs and short skirts?
I guess that's a fat...
How rude.
I guess that's a fat reference again. I don't know.
Yeah.
Although B8
not to Robin this time.
Not to Robin for once. So he basically straight up says to Jess, do you want to be with me or do you want to be with the cheerleaders?
And calls all of her mates fat.
So now Bruce is also getting in the way of friendships as well. Relationships with her friends, with her family. But basically Jess is in love and she chooses Bruce. She says, yeah, okay, fine.
Yeah, she goes to the assembly, but then she fakes a headache and stomach cramps.
Yeah.
So Bruce, the evil wizard, gets his way.
He does, yeah. She says she got a headache in class, and later she's seen crying on Cara Walker with period pain and stomach cramps. But by the end of the day, she's totally fine. Heads off to meet Bruce.
A few days later, Cara bursts into the Oracle office, and she tells Liz that Jessica is quitting the squad.
Yeah.
And that she thinks Bruce forced her to do it, and that he was controlling when she dated him too.
Yeah, Liz basically says, you know, Bruce seems awful. And she says, you know, well, like, Cara, you were with him once. What happened? And she says that once was enough and that she likes her independence. Liz says that Bruce is controlling Jess, body and soul. And Cara says that Jess is heading into trouble. We
get to Jess's room later that evening, and she's finally giving Robin the makeover.
Yes.
And we get Jess's inner monologue, and she says if Robin lost some weight, she might not be bad looking.
Yeah, that's 9.
And then Robin asks Jess about joining Pi Beta Alpha, and Jess thinks she can't seriously believe anyone would want a butterball like her as a sorority sister.
10. So Robin has overheard that there are potential pledges coming. And again, as another sort of nod to how lost Jess is in Bruce, she says that she hadn't noticed. She really doesn't care about Pi Beta Alpha anymore. And given how much of a thing that was to her in Double Love, kind of shows that she's lost interest in almost everything at this point.
Yeah, she lies to Robin and she tells her that membership is closed for the year.
Yeah.
But Robin says she'll do anything to get in.
Yes, and that immediately sets a spark inside of Jess.
Yeah, she remembers her several household chores.
Yes, and she also suggests that Robin help her make a casserole to impress Bruce the following day. She's trying to impress Bruce with home cooking.
And then she's like, oh no, I forgot. I won't be in tomorrow afternoon. But Liz will let you in. And then she smiles to herself, admiring her own cleverness. And she plans to return home just before dinner time, so there'll just be a hot home cooked meal waiting for her on the table. Yep. Cooked by Robin. And she'll get out of her turn to cook, I'm assuming. So
yes,
yeah, she's basically made up a complete lie.
And then we kind of get a summary of Jess over the next few weeks. She realizes that Bruce is slipping away from her. He's been making more and more excuses not to see her, and when he does, he's making a massive deal out of her having friends. He says, like, you don't need them, you've got me.
Yeah, she says sometimes, like, she says, can't we hang out with our friends sometimes?
Yeah. He says you don't need them.
Yeah, and then they have a fight. I think it's their first big fight because she wants him to go to a sorority dance with her. And he tells her he's spending the night with his mates working on his car.
And she suggests going alone.
Yeah, she begs him to go first. And he accuses her of trying to run his life.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I'll go without you then. And he says, well, if you go without me, you can see whose arms you won't be in next Saturday night. Yeah,
he basically says if you go to that dance, we're done.
So she obediently stays at home.
Yeah, but she's very bored. Bored enough that she agrees to babysit Mr. Collins'
Oh yeah, so
son,
this is the following weekend.
Yes.
So yeah, he tells her he's spending the day with his grandmother this time.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
So she accepts a babysitting job from Mr. Collins for his son Teddy.
Yeah. But of course, she has a plan.
Yeah. So again, she's going to use Robin for her own gain.
Yeah. So Robin's hanging out with her just in case Bruce calls, so that she can leave her with Teddy.
Yeah, she invites Robin to join her. She asks Mr. Collins if Teddy can go to their house instead because she doesn't want to miss a call from Bruce if he calls. Yeah. And then she invites Robin to join her because she thinks if Bruce does call, I can just palm Teddy off onto Robin.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he does call at 3 p.m. and he says he wants to see her in 15 minutes.
Yeah, he basically is like...
notice.
Yeah, it's pretty short
notice. If
someone
rang me and they were like, I want to see you in 15 minutes, I'd be like...
Are you dying?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
She must just be sitting there with her hair and makeup done and everything, just waiting for him.
Yeah. So, of course, she runs out. And
she tells Robin there's an emergency.
Yeah.
And they go to the Dairy Burger.
Yes. And Bruce says he has some bad news. He can't make their picnic date tomorrow, which Jess, obviously not seeing him very much, was really looking forward to. He basically says he needs to spend the day with his dad.
He says he has to play the obedient son at his dad's cocktail party.
Yeah.
She says, she asks if she can go too, but he says she wouldn't enjoy it. And then he gets angry.
Yeah, she says, like, you know, oh, your dad always said he'd love me to come over any time.
Yeah.
And Bruce gets really angry and says now is not the time. And basically starts acting really off and cold to Jess until she drops it.
So she apologises to him in a soft little girl voice.
Yeah, we have lost Jessica now.
And then they start making out again.
Yeah. I must admit, after the first two books, I didn't think it would be possible for me to feel sorry for Jess, but I actually do feel really bad for her.
You'll get over it.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll get over it because she'll be awful again. But, you know, for right now, you know, as soon as she talks about Robin again, I'll just be like, oh, she's awful.
Oh, the next book you'll definitely go over.
Yeah, you've said that the next book is going to be interesting. But yeah, so she drops it. And then the next day, Liz reads her Oracle post because she's an egomaniac and likes to read her own articles.
The Oracle's hit the press and she heads to the office to check it out. But yeah, naturally she looks at her own column first.
Yeah.
And she sees an item on the column that she didn't write.
Yes. Bruce apparently won the Desert Road Rally.
Yeah, it says, congratulations to Sweet Valley's own Bruce Patman, who took first prize in last Sunday's Sun Desert Road Rally.
Yes. But of course, Sunday, he was supposed to be with his father all day.
Yeah.
So something doesn't add up.
So she's distraught. She's distraught that someone's tampered with the column, and also because Bruce has lied to Jess.
Yeah.
So she asks around the Oracle office to try and find out who wrote it, but nobody seems to know.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a mystery at this point as to who actually wrote this. But Liz decides to talk to Jess about this. And she says, like, did you see the column? Did you see what it says? And Jess obviously is upset, but she kind of quickly recovers and says, "Oh no, I knew."
She wants to save face, doesn't she?
Yeah, she wants to save face. She says that she spoke to Bruce and that he said he lent his car to a friend.
As if he'd lend his car to anyone.
Well, yeah, exactly. As if he would lend his car to anyone. But it wasn't Bruce. Bruce was definitely with his father.
Yeah, so she says it must be a mix-up. Like the friend borrowed the car and used it, so the friend won the rally.
Yeah.
Not Bruce. But she says even if he did go, his plans must have suddenly changed at the last minute, and that she says she doesn't have a leash on him. And Liz says no, but he's got one on you.
Yeah. She's right.
But Jess says to Liz that Liz just doesn't understand what it's like to be completely in love. I mean, yeah, sure.
Yeah, she's only got Todd.
Exactly.
She's in a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, presumably she's in love, right?
Yeah.
I would say that Liz was just as obsessed with Todd in Double Love as Jess is with Bruce now.
I'm not sure.
Nah, maybe not. Maybe you're right.
But
yeah, she says that she shouldn't do what Bruce says at the expense of her own life. But Jess is just completely in love and won't hear any of it.
So now we're going to get to the most stupid plan ever.
Oh, well, I'm glad you said that, because I thought exactly the same when I read it this morning.
I don't understand this. It's the most
convoluted.
Long-winded,
so
convoluted, unnecessary plan. I can't even begin to... Oh. So basically, the next day at school, Jessica tells Robin that she's decided that she'll be a perfect candidate for PBA.
Yeah.
But that some of the other girls don't agree, and they want her to do a little test to prove herself. Robin says she'll do whatever they want. So Jess asks her to go to the chemistry lab and steal a test paper.
Yes.
Robin is hesitant, but Jess assures her it's foolproof because Bruce knows some frat buddies that got away with it. And she says if Robin pulls it off, she'll definitely nominate her for Pi Beta Alpha.
Yeah.
So Robin decides to go for it.
Yeah.
And she shows up at the Wakefields that night with the test. Jess says there's one more thing she has to do to pass the test, which is slip the test paper into Emily Mayer's locker.
So at this point, I wrote a note next to this that just says, "What the fuck is even going on?"
I know. Well,
I was reading it this morning, and I was like, "What are you even doing? This doesn't make any sense." So the next day, Jess sees Emily, and she's like, "Are you ready for the test?" And Emily, says, "I'm really tired," and Jess says, I know you've got this," and Emily straight up says,
she says, "I saw you looking at the test paper."
Yeah. And Emily straight up says, "I know that it was you that put the papers in my locker."
Yeah. First she says, "I'm not a cheater and I'm not going to use it." But then Jessica says, you have to use it. It's a golden opportunity.
Yeah.
Emily is suspicious and she asks Jess why she cares. But Jess just straight up tells her, "Look, I want a copy from you."
Yeah. So her plan is to get Emily to cheat so that she can cheat off of Emily.
So she's got Robin to go and steal the paper.
So she's got all the answers she needs and could take those answers and cheat. But instead of doing it directly, she's then going to get someone else to cheat.
But then she's going to cheat anyway. By copying off someone else who's cheated.
Which is more risky because then you're more likely to get seen cheating. So, and then also she's only going to, and I understand her logic because she's only going to get some of the answers right so that it doesn't look like
But she could have done that.
But she
just
could have done that from the test.
Herself.
I know. It makes no sense. It's such a
most
convoluted
ridiculous,
plan.
complicated plan. When I was reading this, I was just like, why?
Yeah, I was so confused.
Like, why is
by
she
this.
doing this?
Yeah, I've even written it here. Why doesn't she just do this herself without Emily?
Emily didn't even need to be involved in this.
No, it's like they just needed to link the two stories somehow, and that's their tenuous link. But I
hope we explain that, like, in a way that can be understood.
If that didn't make much sense, it's because it doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense.
But
it's stupid, basically.
Yeah. But anyway, the next day, Liz heads over to Max's house to continue her story on the droids. But it's not...
She wants to get a behind-the-scenes look.
Yes, she wants to get a behind-the-scenes look. And it's not long before she does, as the band argue again about the management and Red Leather Pants Man. He's...
Apparently he's only getting them, like, really shit gigs.
Yes, and he's been talking to Dana again.
Yeah, so Dana says...
Dana, sorry.
Dana.
I say Dana, I'm not sure what is
I think I
there.
have corrected you, but
you probably have.
You just went back to saying Dana.
It's stuck in
my
my
head. I thought I'd just leave you to it.
It's just stuck in my head now.
Dana says that he's told her they might be playing a small club in LA in a couple of weeks. And Guy gets angry again, and he's like, when did you appoint yourself spokeswoman for the band?
Do we ever get another storyline with the droids?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
because this book
went
didn't go the way I was expecting. Like, I thought this book was going the way of, like, Guy is a complete twat and they're going to kick him out, but it doesn't go there in the end.
No, there are lots of storylines.
Okay, cool. Well, they're in every dance, and there's a dance every book, so I guess
Liz feels awkward. And she's just like, I've got to go. And Emily asks if she can have a lift home.
Yeah.
On the way home, she tells Liz about cheating on the test.
Yeah.
But she leaves Jessica's name out of it. And of course, Liz is like, you need to come clean.
Yeah, she says that, Mr. Russo is a human. He's only human, and he will understand if you explain.
Yeah, I'm sure teachers are really understanding about
cheating
on tests.
Yeah, absolutely. But then the next day at the Oracle, Liz finally discovers that it was the sports writer who added the part about Bruce.
Yeah.
And he confirms that Bruce was furious when he found out that he was in the column. And says that it was definitely Bruce that was racing.
Yeah, because it's John Pfeiffer. He only put the article in because he says he wanted to do Bruce a favour because he's a mate of Bruce's.
Right, so he didn't realise that he was dropping Bruce in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Liz says, was he definitely driving the car? And John is like, yeah, he was.
He would never let anyone borrow the car. Which, to be honest, I don't know why anyone believed that in the first place, because, like, Bruce, why would Bruce ever do that?
And then Liz is like, was he alone in the car? And John says he was with a navigator.
Mm-hmm.
And Liz is like...
Using those journalism skills.
Yeah. She asks who the navigator is, and John says that he can't tell her.
Yeah, it's a dirty secret. And that night, Liz is really worried about all of this. She's worried about how to tell Jess what she's learned, but then Jess knocks on the door and asks to come in. She shows off a dress that she got for Bruce's birthday, which Bruce has promised to be an intimate date between the two.
Yeah, it's a dinner at the country club.
Yeah.
And Liz gasps because...
she knows something.
Yeah, she knows that Bruce has invited half the school to a big party at the country club for his birthday.
Yeah.
But he's asked everyone to keep it a secret. He says it's a surprise for Jessica.
Yes, and Liz,
weird.
Yeah, it's very weird. Doesn't make any sense. But basically, Liz says that she's thinking that he's going to lead Jessica on and then cancel at the last minute.
Yeah, she realizes he's doing it to get out of spending an evening alone with her at the country club.
Yeah.
But again, that's just a stupid, complicated, unnecessary plan by Bruce.
But it's an unnecessary.
You just say I want a party for my birthday.
Yeah, it's his 18th as well.
Yeah.
So it's a big birthday, right? Your 18th usually.
Yeah, you just say I want a party for my birthday.
I'm having a party.
But again, like the cheating plan with Emily,
they just had to overcomplicate it and make it some big. It's
not like
plan.
Jessica's going to be like, no,
exactly.
You can't have a birthday party.
Exactly. It's so weird. But yeah, fair enough. Liz just says that she doesn't believe Bruce, and Jess says that she can believe what she wants. But before Liz can actually say what she's learned, Cara Walker knocks on the door and comes into Liz's room, and takes Jess downstairs to make a cake for Bruce. Apparently everyone cooks for Jess. So the next day, Jess discovers that she's failed the test.
Yeah, she's got an F. And she assumes Robin must have messed up the papers.
Yeah, she assumed that Robin stole the wrong paper.
Fat lump.
But Mr. Russo calls her aside. Says that, there's no excuse for being this lazy and not bothering to revise and get ready. It showed that she was completely unready for the exam. And that she now needs to pass every exam from now on to get through this semester.
After class, she catches up with Emily in the hallway.
Yeah.
And she pins her up against a wall.
Yeah.
Bitchy.
Yeah, very.
Emily says, look, I came clean to Mr. Russo, and I got detention. And Jessica's furious.
Yes. Yeah, but she does say that she left Jess out of it. She
Yeah.
didn't bring up Jess, so Mr. Russo or Russo doesn't know about Jess or Robin, but she's just she's come clean.
Yeah, so Jess is furious, and she goes to find the one person who can cheer her up.
Yes,
Bruce,
and he's awful.
Yeah, he's sat with his friends on the patio.
Yeah,
and he says, "Not now, babe," when she approaches him.
Yeah,
and he carries on bragging to his friends about one of his tennis wins.
Yeah.
She's furious again, even more furious than she was before.
Yeah.
And she storms off, but she tells herself she'll just have to get over it.
Yeah, he basically just ignores her and keeps talking to his friends. Like, every time she tries to talk or get his attention, it's just like, not now. Continues talking. But it's the night of Bruce's birthday, and Jess, gets into Bruce's Porsche, carrying some parcels and gifts.
So, first of all, she's getting ready for the party, and she's pouring her body into the tight black dress she bought.
Yeah.
And she's doing her lip liner in the pouty style that Bruce likes. And she thinks if this doesn't get his heart pumping, he must have ice water for blood.
Well, maybe he does.
Yeah, and he arrives to pick her up in his Porsche, and she gets in the car with half a dozen presents for him.
Yeah.
And he says, "Oh, are those presents for me?" It's like, no shit. Like, who do you think
it's
that
your birthday,
for?
Right?
Yeah. And then he just casually tosses the presents into the back of the car.
Yeah, she says,
"Do you want to open them later?"
And he says, "I'll open them later." Just shoves them, throws them in the back of the car.
He says he'll open them after they've had some fun.
Yeah.
And starts trying to kiss her again. Basically, all he ever wants to do is make out with her.
Yeah, that's all he wants, yeah.
So she's really hurt because he hasn't even acknowledged all the effort she's gone to with her new dress and her makeup and the presents.
And presumably he just threw a cake in the back of his car as well.
Yeah. So she says, "Do you like my new dress?" And he says it's delicious.
Yeah.
But that she's going to be a tad overdressed for the party.
So they get to the party.
Yeah. And he tells her he only threw the party for her because she said she wanted them to spend more time with her friends.
Oh, sorry. Yes, we missed that bit, didn't we? Sorry. He reveals the party. He reveals that he's going to the party. Sorry. My bad. He reveals that there's a big party. And Jess is upset because she thought it was going to be this intimate night. Yeah. And he said, "No, I'm doing it for you."
I only did this for you. He sounds like her, basically.
Yeah, he's basically playing her at her own
what
game
she
now.
does to Elizabeth all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he says, "Don't worry, we can go down to the beach for some alone time after the party."
So they get to the party and it's absolutely rammed. And Robin runs up and compliments Jess on her dress.
Yeah.
But Jess cannot find it in herself to give the same compliment, thinking that her pink dress makes her look like a poster girl for a cotton candy store.
Yeah, so she's in a pink and white striped dress. Bruce is in his element, because he's the centre of attention, and he just ditches Jessica and goes off and mingles.
Barely speaks to her. He's off talking to the cheerleaders. So now, not only is Bruce alienated Jess from her friends, Bruce is now flirting and chatting with her old friends while she's sat
flirting
on her
and
own.
chatting with the chicks with fat thighs.
Yes, the people that he was slagging off earlier. Yeah,
because I think it says something like Jessica wonders if he still thinks they've got fat thighs.
Yes, it does actually say that, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. So then Liz and Todd arrive, and Liz questions Jess about the party, and Jess lies, saying that she absolutely loves the party. You know,
she's having a great time.
Yeah.
So Liz goes off to talk to Emily, who's got some interesting news.
It turns out,
surprise,
Red Leather Pants Man was not a manager, and that guy didn't do his research properly. It turns out he doesn't work for a big company and was never going to take them to the big time.
Yeah, so he was fired from the management company, so he used to work for them.
Yes.
But he was fired for about a month before he even met the droids. And he was just leading them on because he fancied Dana, basically.
Yeah. And that's why. That's why he was always talking to Dana.
But obviously they're playing Bruce's party.
Yeah, of course they are, because they play everywhere. I don't know why they're worried about making the
Bruce
big time.
Bruce is rich. You'd think he'd have, not a high school band. You'd think he'd have a professional band.
Well, they are Sweet Valley's answer to the Rolling Stones.
Of course, yeah.
But Emily, I quite like this, though, because Emily actually says, that although it's a bit disappointing, she's actually pleased that it's done with, and that she's happy to play smaller gigs, and it gives her more time to focus on her studies. Mm-hmm. Very sensible of her.
Meanwhile, Bruce is dancing with Lila. What a good friend Lila is.
Yes.
Winston sees that Jess is on her own, and he asks her to dance.
Yeah, he basically says, I've been working on my dances. Let's do a dance, Jess. But Jess says no several times, and then she says, Bruce is going to dance with me. He's promised he's going to dance with me after this song, and the song's nearly ending. Yeah,
and she says Bruce wouldn't like it if she danced with anyone else.
She then says that Bruce wouldn't like it, that he'd get funny if he saw her dancing with someone else.
Even though he's dancing with everybody else.
Yeah, he's literally over there doing it.
He finally remembers that she's there, and he goes over to her.
Which I assumed is only because she's talking to Winston. Because she's talking to another guy.
Yeah, and because he goes over and then he says he can't stay because he's promised the next dance to Caroline Pierce.
Yeah.
And he ignores her until the very last dance of the night.
Yeah.
So they have the last dance of the night, the slow dance together. And then everyone leaves to go to Guido's pizza place.
Well, this is another thing as well, because Bruce says that why don't we leave the party and go to the beach with some food from Guido's, and obviously Jess is super delighted about this, and then she said, what, you're going to leave your own party? And Bruce is like, no, don't worry, I'm going to bring the party with me. I mean, we're taking everyone.
Yeah,
we're taking the whole party. So again, Jess is crushed again. So they all head down in a convoy of cars down to Guido's.
Mm-hmm. And when they get there, he starts ignoring Jessica again.
Yes, and Liz notes that old confident Jess is dead, and that she's now just following Bruce around.
Yeah, she thinks that she's been replaced by a meek, compliant young lady.
Yeah.
Bruce suddenly looks at his watch and he excuses himself to go and make a call. And when he returns, he's got a serious expression on his face.
Oh, well, yes. So, sorry, just before that, Bruce literally is stood in front of Jess making plans that are going to cancel her plans with him.
Oh, yeah.
He's talking to Ken about going clay shooting on a day that he'd promised Jess to go on a date. And he's just basically making new plans right in front of her. But then, yes, as you said, he then goes away and he comes back with a morbid expression.
Yeah, he says that his grandmother's sick.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to go.
Yeah, and Jess, quite obviously, as you would, says that's horrible news. And really sorry to hear that. Jess leaves with Todd and Liz.
Yeah, Liz says that she'll drive Jess home, and she drags Jessica out before she can protest.
Yeah.
She whispers to Todd that she has a plan.
Yeah.
And she asked Todd to drive them around for half an hour.
So Todd comes up with the best plan ever to keep this going. Todd, the basketball star, the jock, His excuse for because basically the plan is to disappear for half an hour and then come back to Guido's, because Liz thinks that Bruce is still going to be there and that something's going to be going on, because they obviously wanted to get rid of Liz. So, which again, this doesn't make any sense, because if he'd said that at the party, surely everyone at the party would be like, "Oh, the party's over." Like, Bruce's grandmother, unless they're all in on it, which is also horrible. Like, now everyone's in on it, or at least the people that heard. And I guess they are, actually, because Ken is actually with him when they get back. So I suppose maybe they were in on it.
Ken, I'm disappointed in Ken.
So am I. I'm disappointed in Ken.
I
was like
one of the good guys.
So Todd decides to. He drives around for a bit, but then his ultimate plan is that he basically says he wants to look at Saturn and Venus, and that he's really into astronomy. So they have to stop to look at some...
He says he's heard that Jupiter and Saturn are going to be visible.
Yes, to tonight. The naked eye tonight, yeah.
So they need to stop so he can look at them.
And even Jess questions this. She's like, I didn't know you were into astronomy. And Todd's like,
yeah, I've always been into it.
I've always been into... I know everything about astronomy. Worst excuse ever. But then, they're about to go home and Liz is like, oh no, I left my keys at Guido's. And Jess is fuming. Jess is like, take me home. I'm done. But Liz says, it'll only take a minute. Let's just pop back to Guido's and pick up my keys. Which obviously gives them the excuse to go back there.
Yeah, they get back there and Liz's reporter's instincts
were
correct. And... Bruce's car is still parked outside.
Yeah.
They go in and the party is still in full swing. But Bruce is now sitting next to an attractive redhead.
Yes, John, Ken and Bruce are all sat with girls. Bruce opposite an attractive redhead. But...
the fog lifts for Jess.
It does.
And a sly smile appears on her face.
And Liz finally sees that the old Jess is back. What was it they said in Double Love? Hurricane Jess?
Yeah.
Hurricane Jess is back.
Reminds me of Cyclone Cyril.
Yes, Cyclone
If anyone's watching Married at First Sight Australia, they'll know what we're about.
Yeah.
If not, don't worry. If not, actually watch it.
You should watch it.
Just watch it all. There's 40 episodes, but just watch them all.
I didn't want anything to do with that show, and now...
you didn't have much of a choice,
I didn't have much of a choice, but honestly... It's it is an addictive show, as trashy as it is.
Oh, I just want to don't get me started.
We could go on forever if we start on that. Yeah. But so Jess storms up to the table and starts having a go at Bruce.
Yeah, I love this bit.
It's fantastic.
She says,
after all of the abuse in the book, this bit's great.
She says, "Oh, I can see I'm not the only one that wanted more pizza."
Yeah.
Bruce turns white and he says, "Oh, I'd like you to meet Eileen. She's a friend of the family."
And
I was thinking then, why would she go along with this, like being called a friend of the family?
Yeah, totally.
If I was Eileen, I'd be like, I'm not a friend of the family.
But it gets worse, because then Jess says that she looks like a grandma.
Yeah,
and
she says,
she
doesn't like a friend. She says she doesn't look like a friend of the family to me. She looks more like a grandma.
Yeah, and says that Bruce's grandma obviously made a quick recovery.
I bet she's the 19-year-old from the last book.
Ancient.
Because remember the last book, the 19-year-old he took to the dance was...
Oh, yes.
Was described as a redhead.
She was a redhead, wasn't she? You're right. Yeah.
I can't remember. What did you say? Was it a dance he took her to?
It was the dance.
Because Lila was like, "Oh, have you heard that Bruce is going with a 19-year-old?"
Because Jess wanted him to become king, but he didn't become king, and he left with the redhead.
Yeah, and then Jess says to her, "Hi, Grandma.
Yeah,
I can see you made a quick recovery. It must be the magic pizza. Who would have thought this pizza could turn a sickly old lady into a pretty young girl?"
Yeah.
"And you, poor birthday boy, look terribly pale. You could use some of this miracle cure too." And then she throws the pizza in Bruce's face.
And then soda as well.
Yeah, she's not finished.
No.
She pours a whole pitcher of soda over his head. He tries to escape, but he falls into an artificial waterfall.
Yeah. And for a moment...
everyone laughs at him.
Yeah. For a moment, there's stunned silence. And then everybody laughs at Bruce's humiliation.
Sounds like a good pizza place has got an artificial waterfall.
It sounds pretty cool. This is pretty extreme for a Pizza Hut.
And then she takes Winston's arm and she leaves with him.
Yeah, she says,
again, Winston's being used.
Again, he's being used.
As
she
a pawn
puts
in
her
their
arm
games.
around him and says, I believe you owe me a date. Winston, of course, is overjoyed by this. But again, just being used once again by the twins.
Yeah.
But on the way out, she's still not done. Jess stops by Bruce's Porsche and lets the air out of all of the tyres.
And then she's done.
Yeah, she's done then. But of course, we have our setup, which they've been hinting at the whole way through. At the end of the book here, Liz and Todd are sat inside the diner with Robin, and Robin lets slip about Jess promising to nominate her for the sorority.
So Liz smells a rat, and she decides that she's going to go to the next PBA meeting.
Yeah.
Even though she doesn't usually go to them because she thinks that
She's
sororities are stupid and silly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But she thinks, she'll go to the next meeting to nominate Robin in case Jessica doesn't.
Yeah.
But she is unaware of the chaos she's about to cause, it says.
And we will find out what that chaos is in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, the next book, it says, can Liz outwit her scheming twin and make Robin a pie better? Find out in Sweet Valley High number 4, Power Play.
And we will cover Power Play in 2 weeks' time. The show goes out every other Monday on YouTube, Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, Pocket Casts, DursProductions.com. And if you want us to add it anywhere else, let us know, and we'll try and get it added anywhere else. But thank you for listening, everybody.
Yeah, thanks
loving
everyone.
the feedback.
Yeah, thanks for all the nice Instagram comments.
Yeah, everyone's super positive. It's been lovely.
Yeah. So, what did you think of that book? You liked it?
Like I said, I think for the test. The test plan was ridiculous and just doesn't make any sense. And some of the stuff some parts were really convoluted, and obviously I felt really bad for Robin, and everyone's really horrible to Robin. Even people that I expected to be nice about Robin were horrible, because I expect that from Jess. But then when Liz was doing it, and even Winston does it at one point,
it's
I was a bit
it reminded me of when she was like saying, "Oh, she can't believe someone as popular as Winston would be interested in her," and he was being horrible to her.
Yeah,
but he had like Jess being horrible to him.
Yeah, he doesn't even.
It reminded me of Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion.
I love that
when Toby tells Heather Mooney that she made her life hell all the way through high school. But Heather Mooney says that Romeo and Michelle made her life hell.
Yeah,
but Heather's really pleased that she made somebody's life hell, and then she says, and Romeo and Michelle say to her, "I bet in high school everybody made somebody's life hell."
Yeah, and that's pretty much it.
She's like, "Oh, I didn't make anyone's life hell," and then Toby's like, "Actually, you made my life hell. You were quite mean to me." So, yeah, obviously Winston gets his life made hell, but he's also making someone
else's life hell.
Yeah.
But overall, this was definitely the most entertaining one so far. I really enjoyed reading this one. I struggled with Secrets. I think we said that last time.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Double Love because it was the first one I'd read. This one's better, though. This one's the best of the three so far. So I'm excited for
Power Play. Yeah, Power Play is mainly about Robin. But yeah, we'll get to that in 2 weeks' time.
Absolutely.
So thanks for listening, everybody. And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.